Hari Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Jyotirmayananda channel. We focus on spirituality, our journey to self-realization. Please subscribe for the mystical meanings of the scriptures and daily satsang. We are currently exploring the book The Art of Positive Feeling, authored by Swami Jyotirmayananda Maharaj, my worshipful Guruji, and narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. We are currently discussing the topic of pride or mada, and today we will review the parable of Arjuna's lesson in humility. Before Krishna passed away, he requested that Arjuna take care of the women and children that were left behind after he and the Yadava heroes were all gone. Rushing to honor that request, Arjuna hurried to Dwarka to gather his charges before the city of Dwarka sank into the ocean. While Arjuna was escorting the women and children towards Hastinapur, a large gang of robbers attacked them. At that time, Arjuna tried to use all the weapons that had previously been at his command, but found that his powers had been rendered ineffective. Experiencing tremendous frustration and humiliation, Arjuna could only watch as their wealth was looted and most of the women were carried off by the murderers, and the robbers. In despair, he brought the remainder of the survivors to safety and gave them shelter in various regions of the kingdom. Overwhelmed with sorrow, after seeing his inability to save all the women and children of Dwarka, and not knowing where to turn for consolation, Arjuna went to the ashram of sage Vyasa. Approaching the sage, he said, "How was it possible for 500,000 great Yadava heroes to be destroyed in such a short time? How was it possible that I could not protect the Yadava women from ordinary robbers despite all my efforts?" Under the guidance of sage Vyasa, Arjuna was then led to understand that all the events surrounding the destruction of the Yadavas, as well as all the events that occurred during the Great War, it was the divine plan that was unfolding according to the will of Krishna. Vyasa explained that when Krishna's mission as an avatara, divine incarnation, was over, he and all his people had to depart. If Krishna had wanted to save his relatives, he could have done so. But since their work in this world was over, he allowed them all to be destroyed. The women that were captured by those robbers were also following their karmas. They had been apsaras in the heavenly world who, because of certain errors, had been cursed to enter into human embodiment and remain there until robbers released them from that bondage. Thus, Vyasa helped Arjuna realize that it was divine will, not the egoistic will of an individual, that was of uttermost importance in this drama of the world process. It was not his own strength that really won the battles for him, nor his own weakness that lost them. It was the divine Krishna driving the chariot who rendered their enemies lifeless. He, Arjuna, was merely acting as an instrument of Krishna's will. Becoming free of ego. For the vast majority of people, ego is one's identity. Relaxation of ego is achieved only during sleep, when ego is set aside not by one's choice but by an unconscious biological process. But when you are moving from normal to supernormal awareness, you begin to discover that ego is not the source of your inspiration and your initiative. In reality, you are different from your ego. As that understanding grows, You learn to set aside the ego by your own choice through increasing intuitional understanding. The art of becoming free of ego is indeed the subtlest art. However, it is acquired through a persistent process of personality integration by which you bring renewed health to your body and to your conscious and unconscious mind. If you are physically healthy, it is possible for you to detach from the body. If you are mentally healthy and serene, then it is possible for you to detach yourself from the mind. If your unconscious is not pressured by impure, subtle desires, then it is possible for you to go beyond your ego. As you balance yourself by right action, devotion, meditation, reflection, and of course, satsanga or good association, you begin to develop a harmonized personality. You realize that relaxing the ego is not so difficult and begin to feel as if your spirit is a flying bird flying through the newly opened window of a cage, free to soar beyond all imagination. In daily life, therefore, one should be alert not to let pride, conceit, and egoism become prominent. You must subjugate the promptings of the ego day by day and feel humbler than a blade of grass and yet mightier than mountains, lesser than a little glowworm and yet more effulgent than the sun. The flowers do not advertise their fragrance. The sun has no need to proclaim its luminosity by beating drums. The ocean has no need to sing the praises of its own profundity. The Himalayas have no need to brag about their lofty heights. So too, an aspirant who unfolds the fragrance of virtue unravels the luminosity of spiritual wisdom, experiences the profundity of universal life, and ascends the height of superconsciousness. He has no need to indulge in pride and its numerous expressions. So, with this, we have concluded this discussion on pride, ego, that we were having for for a few days, last few days. And we are starting a new um, vice and how to control it, understand it, and go penetrate deeper into it is moha. Moha is delusion. The term moha is usually defined as delusion or an obscuring of reasoning. But delusion has many implications. In the highest philosophical sense, it is moha that causes the unenlightened mind to perceive a world of multiplicity, which in reality, when in reality, nothing exists other than the non dual Brahman. So there is only one unit, but the appearance of multiplicity binds us. There is just the non dual Brahman, that is the Vedantic Advait system, the absolute self. It is moha that causes the mind to ignore the blazing reality of divine glory that permeates all and to become stuck to names and forms, to ignore the ocean but become attached to the waves, to ignore the sky and become attached to little clouds. Moha causes the mind to be caught up by apparent values of family and society and then to feel completely confined to those values and circumstances. It is moha that causes you to view yourself as an individual completely dependent on your family or friends and to feel that your joy completely depends upon them and theirs upon you. Ishvara Shrishti versus Jiva Shrishti. Ishvara is God, Jiva is the individual. Imagine for a moment that you live in a beautifully decorated palatial home and feeling a bit lazy, you lay down on your luxurious velvety bed. You doze off, only to discover that in your dream you are being chased by a tiger. No one is there to help you, and no matter where you run, you are miserable. On waking, you realize that it was all just a dream. There was no tiger, and your life was not in danger at all. That palatial room with its velvety bed is symbolic of what the scriptures refer to as Ishvara Shrishti, the creation of God. The divine creation is majestic and infinitely blissful. From morning to night, the immense glory of God cascades through this universe, permeating all internally and externally. The dream that arose when you went to sleep, the dream in which you found yourself entangled in so many difficulties, is symbolic of Jiva Srishti, the creation of the individual. Despite the omnipresent abundance of the divine creation, the human mind remains cramped by the alternating pleasure and pain of life. Due to its conditioning and limitation, the mind experiences a world of time and space and is unable to bask in the awareness of divine presence. This is due to moha. We will study more on this topic in tomorrow's satsang. Hari Om Tat Sat.